Hello?
Hello. Sydney?
Who?
Sydney?
Cindy?
No. Sydney.
Sydney who?
Prescott.
Drescott? Your dress got caught in what?
Sydney Prescott.
No. This is actually her old number.
Oh, really?
You know, it's really strange.
No. What?
I keep getting random calls from someone that sounds just like you once a year. Where are you from? Maybe you guys are all in the same town.
No, that can't be true. I wouldn't really know.
There you go, sir. 1 ticket to VI.
Thanks, I guess. And listen, what's even weirder is they all ask me if I like scary movies.
Oh, yeah? Well, do you?
I love them.
What's your favorite scary?
I love them all.
Then I'm sure you wouldn't mind playing a little.
I'm especially interested in what guys like Ari Aster and Jordan Peele are going to come up with next.
Isn't that stuff a little fancy pants?
I mean, you can label it elevated horror if you want, but it's really just highlighting something that's been in the horror genre all along. 80s slasher films get a bad rep because of the endless sequels.
What?
But they're more than just trash with wall-to-wall jump scares. Streaming has completely changed the game, making older stuff more available that you couldn't find. And then there's sites like Shudder, making original, good content. You should check it out. has done a great job of bringing back iconic properties while giving light to new voices. Hello? Hello, you there? I didn't catch your name. God, rude.
Talking on the phone with somebody?
It was a wrong number.
No. Okay.
Seemed like a nice guy, though.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Tavern Talk. I'm Philip, and joining me this week, Mr. Jason Pitts. Jason, thank you for being here.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of the show and been wanting to be on for a while now. So.
Well, I can't thank you enough for all you did for the Halloween Ends intro. Yeah. Jason's a writer-director, kind of specializes in the horror genre, made several shorts, made a feature that is would you call it a Friday the 13th fan film?
Friday the 13th fan film, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just really excited to kind of dig into to this week's movie with you, with a horror expert. So, not to belabor it any longer, we're talking about Scream 6 this week. So obviously, the sixth movie in the very successful horror franchise, the meta slasher that started in 1996.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Wes Craven kind of ushered in this new phase of horror films when that came out, and did 4 of them. And then it got rebooted last year.
Because all there are now are remakes.
With the guys from Radio Silence. They did Ready or Not previously, which I was a big fan of.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Ready or Not.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah.
Great. And then, so that one was such a success, both critically and commercially, that I was a little worried because I didn't know how, them turning around and spitting out a sequel so quick. I mean, we're barely a year from the last one.
Yeah.
But kind of tell us, obviously we just walked out of seeing Scream 6, but tell us kind of where you come at the franchise from as a whole, and then how you feel about this new one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the franchise. Wes Craven is one of my idols, and Scream revitalized, like you said, the horror genre once again. Like he did it first with Nightmare, and then again with Scream.
Right.
So, huge Scream fan. First Scream, one of my favorite slasher films of all time. I love the franchise. I came into this film a little hesitant because I wasn't big on 5.
Okay.
I wasn't real big on what they did with 5. I thought the killers were way too predictable. I had them pegged like super early. They did a lot better with this one.
Okay. Great segue. I'm kind of right there with you. I was worried, like I said, I liked Ready or Not.
Till death do us part.
And so I was excited when it was announced that they were the guys that were going to, revamp Scream, essentially. But it's not Wes Craven. And you at least 5 had those core 3 original characters, legacy characters back. So I was like, okay. So there's some credibility to it, but I mean, they make fun of it in that movie and saying, you know, am I in the middle of fan fiction? And that's what I was worried about. I was like, is this going to feel like fan fiction? And then with this one only having Courtney Cox, I was like, is this going to feel even more like fan fiction? Because I liked the fifth one. I thought it maybe didn't go, and I didn't know if it was just because I'm on film Twitter and on Letterboxd and like kind of in that community, like in that bubble. And I was like, I was kind of wish they'd went further with the meta commentary. But I was like, maybe I'm just too in that bubble to realize that they did a good job with it. But I found it satisfying. I rewatched it again this week and was like, and appreciated it. It was the first time I'd rewatched it and how they laid out everything. I was like, okay, this one's better than I gave it credit for the first time. But this one is kind of just like, yeah, no frills. They just kind of get to go for it. I'm still kind of working through how I feel about it because like I definitely liked it. It was a lot of fun, which is always like a key thing with tone for these movies is like they have to be scary, they have to be gory, they have to be genuinely thrilling, but they also have to have this fun element to them. And I thought this one did that part really well.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one, everything you know about the Scream franchise and all the tropes that it has established, this one turns every one of them on its head.
Yeah.
So the reversals become the new standard.
Yeah, what did you think about, so a lot has been made about Neve Campbell, you know, Sidney Prescott not being in this one.
Do you want to die, Sydney?
They mention her a couple of times here. Scream 6 mentions Sidney Prescott more than Creed 3 mentions Rocky, but we won't touch that. But no, so... Yeah, what did you... that was another kind of concern coming in for me. I was like, how are we going to do a Scream movie without Neve Campbell? So, but how did you think they executed on that?
Well, they had a lot of people that were right there ready to fill her shoes. I felt like she was missed, but with Jenna Ortega and Hayden Panettiere, like this cast was a new core group, and they're all. I wasn't a fan of the performance that the actress that played Sam in Part 5. I didn't like her very much.
Okay.
I thought Jenna Ortega completely upstaged her, but man, she brought it in this one.
She did, yeah.
She did.
Melissa Barrera, and I hadn't
Melissa.
seen her in anything other than In the Heights before seeing Scream. She's in the new remake of Carmen, and so she's getting out there. But yeah, she is like firmly in the lead of this franchise now, and this one really gives her not just like a lot to do, but like coming out of the events of the fifth one, like a lot of complexity, and like I'm glad
she definitely like feels comfortable in her character in 6 a lot more than she did in 5. She felt very wooden to me in 5.
Okay.
But with Neve Campbell not coming back, I support the reasons that she didn't come back.
Right.
She definitely deserves what she deserves. But I think her not coming back forced the writers to get more creative and just take more risks and take the story in places that it wouldn't have gone if she was involved. So it might have made this installment a little better and just it felt more fresh without her.
It's kind of one of those like now I'm conflicted because like I kind of miss you miss that presence, but like it is true, like this one did have just a new energy to it, and there is a certain electricity kind of running through this one. One of the disappointments for me on this one, though, talking about like new, fresh things, was I really wish they'd kind of taken advantage of the New York City setting a little bit more, other than like the subway scene that has been featured in the trailer and maybe, a few other things. There were a lot more kills in this one, so maybe not as big a deal. Murder rate a little higher in bigger cities, I guess, but so maybe that, but I don't know. Did you... Because they kind of made such a big deal out of like, oh, we're going to New York, we're getting out of Woodsboro. I kind of wish they'd utilize that setting a little more.
Yeah, I agree. Like the subway, and we got the subway, and we got one alley, and then a bunch of like apartment complexes and a set.
Yeah,
and we did not see a lot of New York in it at all. So it felt like Jason Takes Manhattan Part 2.
openings of Scream
Yes.
movies are always, you look forward to them. You hope they can kind of top things. I really dug this one. What did you think about the opening for this one?
Yeah, it was kind of a double opening.
It was, yeah.
Which was great. And it completely took me by surprise. The second half of it did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I loved it. It's definitely up there with the first opening.
Yeah, we may have to do a little Scream rankings, just
opening?
overall. Or overall at the end here. But no, also, wanted to kind of get. You mentioned, the new core group, and I really, like you said in the last one, I got to know them. Like, it was cool. Like, but they definitely were able to take it farther this time around. Like the core four, as they call themselves: Mason Gooding, Jasmin Savoy Brown as Mindy, who got a lot more. Like, how do you feel about like the monologuing?
Oh man, I love it. Like she definitely takes that Randy character, and fills that void.
Run, bitch, run! He gonna kill you!
And I love the scene with her and Hayden, where they're going back and forth on which movies they like. Oh, it was
I was so
good.
glad they got a moment together.
Me too.
Yes,
me
for
too.
sure. And I mean, I hadn't even mentioned Hayden Panettiere being back yet. You and I talked a little bit before. I think we both have kind of a soft spot for 4.
Yeah, I
would
love
definitely rank pretty high up in those rankings. And so it was really neat to see her back in the capacity that she is. And
I read that she actually contacted the filmmakers and pitched a way how she could come back.
Oh, neat.
And she forced her way back into the franchise.
Oh, I remember in the 5th one there, or I saw it. I watched it again this week. That little YouTube thumbnail that they had put in there. So that was cool. But her, and then of course Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera being the main. But there's a couple new characters sprinkled throughout here. Dermot Mulroney shows up, and then I'm trying to think who. I mean, and then of course Courtney Cox is kind of the one big legacy character that's back. But I mean, like, should we go into spoilers now?
We can, I think.
It's just hard to talk about her role in this because there's been so much talk around, will Gail survive, or will she make it out alive? So if you've seen Scream 6, feel free to keep watching. Maybe the next 5 minutes or so. Skip over. We'll give our star ratings at the end, but we're gonna talk a little bit about stuff that might give some things away here. So what was so Gail? Your verdict on that? Were you happy that she ultimately makes it out alive, or not?
If I had one critique of this film, it's that so many characters, Gail included, were dead to rights, like stabbed 15 times and survived.
Yeah.
It was her, Chad, Mindy, Hayden Panettiere's character. All of them got tore up. Yeah. And they survived. So.
I thought definitely Gail and Chad. Yeah. For sure. I don't know how Chad survived.
There's no way he should have survived.
There's no way.
No way.
And they even throw in a line. I don't know if it was 80 yard or not, but there was oh, we all survived. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? They upend expectation even more. It subverts. It subverts
expectations.
It's subversion on top of subversion.
In fact, the only surefire way to survive a modern horror movie, you pretty much have to be gay.
And I was like, that was kind of weak, especially. I mean, I'm glad Gail survived because I think it would have been too easy to kill Dewey off in 5 and then kill Gail off in 6. What are you going to do in 7? Bring back Neve Campbell just to kill her? Yeah. It would have just been too predictable.
Right.
And so I'm glad they kept her alive. I thought they maybe did, they keep that core 4 alive, but they developed this kind of relationship, this romantic relationship between Jenna Ortega and Mason Gooding's character, which is sweet and cute and would have made his death all the more impactful.
So I kind of feel like Jenna Ortega's character and Chad are like the new Gail and Dewey.
Oh, okay.
Because Chad, the scar tissue, I feel like that's kind of what they're going with. And Dewey in part 2, he was dead. Everyone thought he was dead, and then they pull him out on a stretcher.
That's
and then they say, it's because of the scar tissue. And I kind of feel like it's
because he did get it pretty bad in
this in the new trilogy. This is the part 2.
Yes.
So there's a lot of parallels between the first Scream 2 and Scream 6.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's definitely on purpose.
Mindy makes sure to call that out when they're
Yes.
on the college
Yeah.
campus and everything, which I appreciated. In the van and with their Uncle Randy and everything. Like I appreciated all those callbacks, and I'm sure there's a ton more Easter eggs that on
Yeah.
repeat viewings will catch. But I kind of wish they'd stuck a little more to some of the kills. But speaking of the kills, super brutal.
Man, I think one of the best kills was I can't remember the character's name, but she was on the ladder. First she basically got gutted.
Yes.
Yeah, and then she's crawling across the ladder and she falls and hits her face on the dumpster, and just that was brutal.
Yeah. And I was that was the one kill in this where I was like nervous about how it was going to end up. Just I mean, I'm not good with heights anyways, but the height thing combined with the falling and the brutality of what can happen on the end of that fall.
That was a very intense scene.
Yeah. As a horror director, how important is getting like inventive and creative kills in there?
Incredibly important, because I mean, like the movie, but like the franchise says over and over again, each one needs to be a little bit bigger. You keep your core audience, but I think more than the brutality of the kills, it's about that suspense.
Yeah.
And that intensity. And this one, I haven't felt intense moments in the franchise like this since part 2.
Yeah,
so really intense moments.
I guess if the New York setting did lend something to it, was just kind of that aura of just kind of roughness. Like there is definitely an edge to this one, to whereas like 4, like for all it's it's pretty graphic too. Don't get me wrong, but there maybe it's just the Woodsboro kind of like Main Street America type feeling that brings it kind of that not necessarily warmness, but like hominess to it. Whereas you take it out and put it in somewhere like this, and it just feels more brutal and more unforgiving. So that was cool. And I did like that aspect about it, because like we said, it also contributed that kind of energy to it and the freshness.
Yeah, that convenience store scene is
Oh,
I
yeah.
wish that they had not have shown that in the trailers.
No, because that was probably one of the best executed as far as like the filmmaking goes and everything. Some great shot, and I mean Gail's interaction with Ghostface in this really well choreographed too. And I just wish it was. I mean, there's some great shots in that sequence. Don't get me wrong, but it went on longer, and I thought it was pretty suspenseful. I loved her interaction with Ghostface, like the way she says, "Can I put you on hold for a minute?"
Yeah.
Like the writing for Gail was on point in this one for sure. And
Some of the dialogue in that scene, where Ghostface is talking about like, "Hey, after all this time, blah 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 blah." So when we find out who the killers are, none of these characters were there at the beginning,
Right.
And so Ghostface's dialogue in that scene really threw me off, because it made me feel like he has been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like once. I was like that.
So let's, I guess, as a kind of final talking point here, what did you think of the reveal? And also, do you think Dermot Mulroney's performance throughout was intentional? Because it was super over the top.
Yeah, I felt like it was intentional. Like looking back, it'd be like, oh my God, he's acting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was over the top, but I kind of feel like it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay. After realizing that he's behind it all.
Yeah, during the movie, I was like, what is he doing?
What is
but
going
then
on? Yeah.
afterward, I was like, okay. But yeah, so the reveal is that Dermot Mulroney, who plays a New York City cop in this, and he is the father of Richie from the 5th movie, and he, along with his other children, a girl and a boy, are basically out
Getting
to avenge. Yeah, which
is the best motive for slasher films.
Yeah.
Revenge, every time it works. Mrs. Voorhees, Mrs. Loomis in part 2, it's the same motive from part 2.
Yeah, that's very.
So.
Oh, you're right. God, no, they really did that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
And I was like, I kind of was a little underwhelmed when the reveal came to pass or whatever. But then I was like, I can appreciate that they're trying to keep it within this new canon, essentially.
I thought it was a great reveal. I did not see it coming. Any of them, actually.
No, I didn't. I didn't guess, because they really played it well, especially with I can't think of his name, but he's the kid that plays Spider in Avatar. He's in this too.
Yeah.
And and Jasmin Savoy Brown's character Mindy, she's constantly calling him like she doesn't trust him. And
What's great is like in her monologue, she called them both. It's
right,
the new roommates.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you meet her? She responded
And
to.
if you remember, in part 2, Randy called Mickey.
I gotta watch part 2 again. It's been a couple of years, especially after this one. I gotta watch part 2.
In his when he's talking to Dewey and they're going over, and he's like Mickey, like he's the one, and then Dewey's like, well, if he's a suspect, you're a suspect. He's like, yeah, you're right. Never mind.
That's right. Yeah, I do remember that. Oh man, that's pretty great. Holy cow! Yeah, I definitely got to go back and rewatch 2 now just to see all the parallels they put in there.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, no, I was initially a little underwhelmed by it, but I like I said, thinking about it a little bit, I definitely appreciate what they're trying to do long term here, and so I can see why they did that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the big thing on the internet and the fans of this franchise are like, Stu's still alive and got to make a comeback.
Man,
maybe they're saving it, maybe they're not.
Every time, I hope so.
They definitely make some nods to knowing people want it.
Yes.
So at least that's there for you.
The TV.
Yeah. But and even Kirby's character says, if he's does she say if he's even dead or if you think he's still alive or something like that. So
my mom and dad.
there's some pretty big nods there, but no, I'm glad you as someone who's been a fan of the franchise found it to be as satisfying, because I was kind of being a little underwhelmed. I was like, oh man, how is everybody else going to take this? So I'm glad you were happy with it.
I haven't decided where in the ranking it is yet. I'm still digesting it, but it's definitely in the top 3.
Yeah, it's definitely. See, I don't even know if I can say. It's definitely too early now that I think about it. It's too early to ask for your rankings because I don't want to give mine because I'm not sure what it is either. But we will do star ratings. So at the end of each review, it's kind of an initial reaction rating. Obviously, we just walked out of the theater from seeing this. But what out of 5 stars would be your initial reaction rating to Scream 6?
4.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go 4 as well, right there with you. It's super solid.
Very solid.
And it may I may appreciate it more the more I watch it, because these movies often benefit from repeat viewings and everything. But yeah, it's really solid. If you like the franchise, I don't know that you can find anything here to not enjoy. It both delivers on what you need from the franchise, what you want from a Scream movie, but also, like we've said,
creating a new story,
feeling fresh, while having the energy that you wouldn't expect the 6th film in a franchise to have. Granted, we've taken some 10-year breaks in there, but still, this has just been a year from the last one.
The only other franchise that has a part 6 like this that is this good that I can think of is Friday the 13th. Part 6, Jason Lives.
I was going to say Fast and the Furious.
It's all.
Salute me, familia.
I'm just kidding.
I'm talking horror, man.
Oh, okay, sorry. I got too crazy. Yeah. Sorry, they talk so much about family in this movie. I couldn't help it. No. So I just got the Friday the 13th box set, and I'm going to go through all of them. I've seen bits and pieces of several different ones on TV over the years. Never sat down and watched the whole series. So
Part 6 is a lot of people's favorite.
Okay, I'm so excited to do it. I wanted to watch them before this so I could see Jason Takes Manhattan, but it just didn't pan out. Yeah, well, thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out to be here and just see Scream and talk about it with
Absolutely,
you. I
really
appreciate it.
I've been wanting to be on for a while. Thank you for having me, and I love that Scream was the first time I was here. So.
Yes. I'm so pumped. And I was so excited to see this and to see it with you and get your reaction, initially. So, but no, I know you have, like we talked about at the beginning, you have a couple short films and that feature out there. Where can people find your work and all that?
So my feature is it's a Friday the 13th fan film. It's called Voorhees Night of the Beast. It's on YouTube. You can just search Voorhees Night of the Beast. There is a sequel as well. It's not a feature. It's called Voorhees After the Beast.
Absolutely.
And then I have 2 short films on Tubi. You can just search my name, Jason Pitts, and they'll both come up. One is called Alone. The other one's called Masquerade.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, sweet. Yeah, guys, check it out. It's really cool, and thank you for taking the time to do this once more. excited to have your horror expertise on this movie especially. And thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, hit the like button, notification bell. We try to upload a new review every couple weeks here for some of the biggest releases, so hit that notification bell. You'll get a notification when we do that. Thank you to the Movie Tavern for so kindly letting us see the movies here, shoot the show in their theater. But that's it for this week. We will see you guys next time. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Peace.
See you guys later.
What's up?